what's about to happen, so those of you guys that aren't familiar with honor process will understand. It is customary for everyone to stand for the rendering of the honors and the posting of the colors. Uniformed personnel should place their right hand over their hearts during the command "present arms" and lower the right arm when the command order arms is given. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the presentation of the colors by the Honor Guard.
All uniformed personnel, order, armed. Parade, rest.
You may be seated. I want to say thank you to each and every person that is here today to honor the life of Master Officer Patrick Blanchard. Whether you're physically in the room at the Minot State Dome with us or watching online, your presence is seen and it is important. To the first responders today, you sacrifice and pay a price day in and day out that is not always seen and understood by those of us that live in the communities you serve in. It is important that as peers in the first responder community, you are able to support each other in a time like this. You know the realities of your job and can empathize with those serving with what you are going through. No one knows better the life of a first responder than those who are first responders. To those of us from the community, it is important we are here today to show support for the first responders who allow us to live our lives. We may never see the day-to-day realities of those who serve to protect, but your presence today makes a statement to our first responders that they are seen and we appreciate what they do for us. It is important in this moment for all of us to come together as one to honor the life of Master Officer Patrick Blanchard. In doing so, we as a community are making the statement that we are in this together and we are going to be okay. We will grieve and we will get through this. As we begin today, I want to invite Sergeant Matt Pappenfuss of the Minot Police Department up to the podium. Matt was a friend of Patrick and also served alongside him as a fellow officer. Patrick's family has prepared a statement that he is going to read as we begin the gathering here today.
On behalf of TIA, although PJ and I have not been together for nearly 4 years, we have a 20-year history. Our relationship has shape-shifted many times. When we separated, we agreed to do our best to do what was right by our kids. They were our focus. They were our why. They were why we concentrated on co-parenting. They were why we remained in the same town instead of retreating to separate locations. As I sit and write this, I have a little boy who keeps asking me, why? Why did this happen? And as I sit and write this, I notice the text messages coming in, Facebook posts being written and shared, and my kitchen covered in food and cards. This community has held and supported our kids and myself. They have reminded me why coming together is so important. So if there ever comes a time when you lose focus of your why, please reach out to someone and try to remember that you just might be somebody else's why. Though we will never fully understand Patrick's why, I want you to all know from the bottom of my heart for reminding us why we will be okay.
As I look around the room today, I see a gathering of some of the highest caliber men and women that serve in our communities across the state. One thing I know as a leader is that if you want people to listen to what you have to say, you first need to let them know that you care and earn their respect. Then they might listen to what you have to say. In my professional role, I get the honor of serving as a local pastor to the Pursuit Church here in Minot. That title may or may not earn influence in your world. I also understand that there are many beliefs, different beliefs represented in the room today. There is room for everyone today, regardless of what we believe, to respect each other and allow each other to work through our grief. What I want to do first is share my experience with how I met Pat. I think that once you hear how our worlds crossed path and how we became friends, it will help gain enough influence that you'll be open to my words today. Pat and I met in one of our favorite places in the world, the gym. Our paths collided the first time in class at Minot CrossFit. We weren't wearing uniforms, and we didn't know the titles each other held. We were just two guys working out, getting to know each other by seeing how hard each other was willing to push themselves. As we showed up for each workout, we got to know each other a little more. I don't know if I ever impressed Pat with my athletic prowess. Believe it or not, there was a time in my life where I actually looked the part of an athlete. But the question that eventually came up in conversation with him is one that comes up when we all meet new people. And the question is this: what do you do for a living? Up to this point, Pat knew me only by what happened in class at the gym. So when I told him that I was actually a pastor, he was a little surprised. Based on his reaction, his preconceived notions of a pastor didn't line up with who he knew me to be up to that point. The time we spent together before that actually made him say he didn't believe I was a pastor. I don't know for certain, but maybe he was questioning some of the things he said around me prior to that point. What I felt from Pat, though, is that I earned his respect. Not because he had to respect me, but because he saw who I really was and my character of how I went about things. Pat also earned my respect. I saw many of the qualities that so many of you shared when we learned the news of Pat's passing. Pat was my friend, and he will be missed. As we gather today to honor the life of Pat, the biggest question we have to deal with is, where do we go from here? The last thing Pat would want us to do is stay in our pain and suffering because of him. So what I want to do for just a brief few moments is share some things to help us move through our grief and help us heal. There's a time for everything in this life. There is a time to get the job done, and there is a time to grieve. We will get the job done. But each and every one of us needs to work through our grief so we can move forward. The first thing I want to share in how we do this is this: we were created to be in community with other people. The easiest thing to do in response to the loss of Pat or someone we know is to isolate. Pain and hurt oftentimes force us to withdraw and try to deal with it on our own. The vulnerability of our raw emotions makes us insecure as people. We need to do the opposite. We need to lean into others and to surround ourselves with a circle of people who care about us. I heard someone much wiser than me say once, in our grief, we need to experience the ministry of presence. The ministry of presence simply means when people in our circle are hurting, we need to show up and shut up. The deeper the pain someone is experiencing, the less you need to say. As you think about where you're at in the loss of Pat, identify who you are spending time with in a hard season. Be there for each other. Be present. The second thing I want to share in how we get through this is it's okay to not be okay, but not okay to stay that way. Earlier this week in a meeting, I heard Chief Klug make the statement of getting to the place where we buy into the fact that it is okay to not be okay. The reality is many of us have been influenced to believe that when you are not okay, you are weak. Or it is okay for someone else to be not okay, but I have to have it all together myself. I'm guilty of this mindset in my own life. And it's just not true, and it's not helpful. The truth is we live in a broken world. The weather's broken. The economy is broken. You and I as people, if we could be honest, are broken. Our bodies are broken. Sometimes we hurt the people we love the most, whether unintentionally or intentionally. As a first responder, many of you see the broken stuff every day. Pat passed from this life by suicide. It was the result of him having to deal with brokenness. His pain in this world was suffering from mental illness. When people make the decision he made, it is usually not because they want to die. They just want the pain to end. It wasn't anyone's fault this happened. There was not a single person that needs to carry blame that they didn't do enough, or there's one more thing they could have done. What happened is a result of the reality that we live in a broken world. So the starting point moving forward from today for all of us has to be, it's okay for me not to be okay. All of us are going to have moments in our lives where we need to acknowledge we aren't okay and own it. It's not weakness. It's actually true strength. But it doesn't stop there. We have to go one step further. It's okay to not be okay, but one step further is, but it's not okay to stay that way. For a couple of years, I got the chance to mentor some junior high boys, and I was always telling them, leaders lead the way. Anytime they were struggling and working on growing into men, I would say, leaders lead the way. If we want to see progress in our communities with people handling mental health differently, we as the leaders in the community need to lead the way. Leaders go first. We show people true strength in acknowledging our struggles and working to resolve them. It doesn't mean our struggles will magically go away or God will always miraculously heal them. Sometimes we have to learn to manage our struggles in a healthy way. We aren't the exceptions, though. We can't delegate it to someone else. It's not a just do what I say, ignore what I actually do type of thing. It's lead the way. Have courageous conversations. Model utilizing resources at your disposal to get yourself back to health. It's okay to not be okay, but not okay to stay that way. The last thing I want to share is where to find hope in our pain. In moments like this, it's hard to find words in my humanness, so I just have to go to what has given me hope all the times I have felt lost. No matter how dark our current reality is, Jesus brings hope. The darker our world gets, the brighter the light of Jesus shines. Losing a fellow officer, losing a family member, or losing a friend is hard. It brings raw emotions and a sense of loss. In spite of what we are going through, in spite of what we are feeling, Jesus brings hope. If you need a place to look for hope when the world is failing to give it to you, look to this. In John chapter 3, verse 16 through 18, it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe stands condemned already because they have not believed in the name of God's one and only Son." Please bow your heads with me and pray. Dear Jesus, we just invite you into this moment for all the people in attendance today. You are the only person that knows where each and every one of us is at, God. We just invite you to minister to us, comfort us, and help us work towards healing as we grieve over the loss of a friend. Amen. The family has picked out a special song for us to listen to as we pause and reflect here in this moment. As it plays, take a moment and process through the emotions or thoughts that you need to reflect on here and now.
bottle on the dresser by your ring, and it sounds right now. I don't feel a thing. I'll be hurting when I wake up on the floor, and I'll be over it by noon. That's the difference between whiskey and you. Come tomorrow, I can walk in the store. It ain't a problem. We'll always sell them more. It's your forgiveness. Well, that's something I can't buy, or anything that I can do. That's the difference between whiskey and you. One's a devil, one keeps driving me insane. Times I wonder if they ain't both the same. One liar that helps to hide me from my pain, and one's a long gone big truth. That's the difference between whiskey and you. I've got a problem, but it ain't like what you think. I drink 'cause I'm lonesome, and I'm lonesome 'cause I drink. But if I don't break down and bring it on myself, it'll hit out of the blue. That's the difference between whiskey and you. One's a devil, one keeps driving me insane. Times I wonder, oh, it ain't both the same. One's a liar that helps to hide me from my pain, and one's a long gone big truth. That's the difference between whiskey and you. Oh, that's different between whiskey.
For such a simple song, some of those words speak exactly what we are feeling as we honor the life of Patrick. I have a feeling that many of us will be putting that song in a special playlist as we move forward from today. As we remember the life of Officer Patrick, I want to invite Aaron Bowles to the podium. Aaron formerly served in the Minot Police Department before he moved across the country to a new department. He was also one of Pat's good friends and is going to share some thoughts that we need to hear today.
In the wake of the last week, many of us have been heartbroken, searching for the right words and answers. I've been forced to confront a few things which prior to, I hadn't given much direct thought. My hope here today is to maybe guide myself and some of you to a path of healing. I had the pleasure of speaking with Pastor Nick a few days ago, and although he knows Pat, he asked me what my relationship was with Pat in an attempt to better understand him. I thought, wow. How often are we forced to articulate the value of our loved ones? I think the answer is rarely. Most of us truly take for granted our relationships with one another and rarely give pause to those relationships and to put those into words. My frustration quickly passed when I realized this was a learning moment for myself and something that we should all do regularly. What do your people mean to you, and what makes them special? The people in the middle of this room, wearing blue, and those seated with them know Pat very well, some of them more than others. Some only in passing, as he would walk by and greet you in the hallways with his big grin saying, "Hola!" and quickly disappearing to start his day. Night shifters typically met with him to discuss previous night's happenings while congregating near the workstation as the PD comes alive each morning. Some of us had the honor of serving with Pat on the SWAT team, dressing out quickly in the locker room before a call-out, or taking your time chatting before and after training. Pat's sphere of influence expanded far beyond the walls of the police department. As if I needed a reminder, my poor phone has been bombarded with messages from hospital staff, attorneys, and people from all manner of professions who are deeply saddened by the loss of our friend. Then there are those who may or may not be in attendance, who have met Pat and might refer to him more of a consequence rather than a friend. That's fine. Pat had a strong sense of justice and would not be dissuaded from making an arrest when he knew it would protect someone. Pat was not the type to write a speeding ticket or stop cars for other infractions. Pat was interested in helping, whether it was domestic violence, harassment, theft, drugs. Pat was a protector and could not be stopped. Many people who found themselves on his radar could tell you that despite their best efforts to evade or resist, they'd simply go to jail, maybe a little tired. I was lucky to find myself in Pat's inner circle of friends. I can't tell you the exact time I met him, but I remember my first at-length conversation with Pat after some uneventful call in North Hill. We found common ground as men, both having served in Afghanistan, having children, our principles, and our need for camaraderie so many service members long for after getting out of the military. And like many organic friendships are cultivated as police officers, ours developed while 25ing and attempting in an empty parking lot. And for those of you who don't speak police lingo, 25ing is when you see two cop cars pulled up window to window, allowing officers to speak comfortably. Soon Pat and I found ourselves hanging out with each other constantly on our off time. Wanting cohesion to be infectious at the police department, we often cooked large meals and insisted on people on and off shift come eat with us. This was something that he truly enjoyed, and I hope despite his absence can continue in the future. In my friendship with Pat, we developed an uncommon bond. It's hard to make friends as an adult. Most of us know all too well the frustrations of your age increasing and the number of people you call your friend shrinking. He was my best sounding board and confidant. We shared a mutual obligation to one another to support and also condemn each other's stupid decisions. In this shared role, we knew the gritty details of each other's lives, and despite the tradition of standing before a crowd and delivering a eulogy through rose-colored glasses, Pat would insist on me being truthful. He was a flawed man. No different than any other man in that sense. But among his flaws was an unmatched ability to be hard on himself. It doesn't take a psychologist to look at Pat and very rapidly conclude he had a chronic condition of being a perfectionist. Pat demanded perfection from himself as well as others, not one to suffer incompetence or weakness physically or professionally. Just short of living in the gym, Pat continuously strove to develop and tone his body to a standard which this day I'm convinced is a moving goal line. I know this dedication to self-improvement was contagious and inspires many of us to be a better version of ourselves. But Pat's demand for perfection was not isolated to his body because, as we all know, self-improvement and mental health are not nearly as simple as spending time in the gym and lifting heavy things and setting them back down again. Pat found himself frequently frustrated by his shortcomings as a father and as a partner. Nothing frustrated him more than his own tendency to stand in the way of his relationships that meant the most to him. Those people should find comfort in the fact that I, having bared witness to his frustrations, that they were never without firmly pointing the finger at himself. Lastly, I've been saddened and reminded how upon someone's death we immediately change the language surrounding their name in memory. He had such a big impact on people. He was a great guy. I loved him. Yeah, I understand the finality of death, and we will never get to see him enter a room and make it a little brighter. And we will never get a powerful hug or hear the voice behind that big grin. He really did give the best hugs. But why can't we continue to allow Pat to be the influence he always has been on us? Why can't we continue to use the things that he taught us as friends and colleagues? Allow yourself to define what Pat continues to be for you and not what he was for you. Do this not just for him, but all of those whom you hold in high regard. What do they mean to you? To me, Pat is strength, courage, compassion, accountability, and love. That will never change regardless of how much time passes from the night we got that call. That sometimes that task feels impossible and you're overcome with emotion of loss instead of fondness and gratitude for the time spent with him, remember these words by Henry Scott Holland that have helped me for years. Death is nothing at all. It does not count. I've only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I, and you are you. And the old life that we live so fondly together is untouched and unchanged. Whatever we are to each other, that we still are. Call me by the old familiar name. Speak of me in the easy way which you always used. Put no difference in your tone, and wear no forced air or solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes that we enjoyed together. Play, smile, and think of me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effort, without the ghost of a shadow upon it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolute unbroken continuity. What is death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I'm out of sight? I am but waiting for you for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. Nothing is hurt. Nothing is lost. One brief moment, and all will be as it was before. And how shall we laugh at the trouble of parting when we meet again?
Thank you, Aaron, for those words. At this time, I would ask that you turn your attention to the video screen on my left, your right, as we play a tribute video on behalf of Pat.
It'll be fine by dusk, but I'm telling you, baby. These things eat at your bones and drive your young mind crazy. But when you place your head between my collar and jaw, I don't know much, but there's no weight at all. I'm damned if I do, and I'm damned if I don't. Cause if I say I miss you, I know that you will. But I miss you in the mornings when I see the sun. Something in the orange tells me we're not done. To you I'm just a man, to me you're all I am. Where the hell am I supposed to go? Poison myself again. Something in the orange tells me you're never coming home. eyes from bulb light. Your voice only trembles when you try to speak. Take me back to us dancing this wood used to creak. To you I'm just a man, to me you're all I am. Where the hell am I supposed to go? Buzzing myself again, something in the orange tells me you're never coming home. To you I'm just a man, to me you're all I am. Where the hell am I supposed to go? I'm poison myself again, something in the orange tells me you're never coming home. If you leave today, I'll just stare at the way the orange is all things around. The grass, trees, and dew, how I just hate you. Please turn those headlights around. Please turn those headlights around.
When you try your best but you don't succeed, when you get what you want but not what you need, when you feel so tired but you can't sleep, stuck in rivers, and the tears come streaming down your face, when you lose something you can't replace, when you love someone but it goes to waste, could it be worse? Lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you. And high up above or down below, when you're too in love to let it go, but if you never try, you'll never know just what you were. Lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you. lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you.
Father, son, brother, soldier, a servant in our community and for our country, U.S. Army infantry, combat veteran, police officer, stress and trauma and all that Pat has experienced in his professional careers. But not everything was bad. Many of us knew Pat Blanchard as a friendly and caring person. He opened up around friends and coworkers, but was a little more reserved, especially when the media showed up at the PD. But that's not unusual for most police officers. Who was Officer Pat Blanchard? A couple months ago, he helped stabilize a patient involved in a rollover crash while traveling with members of the SWAT team back to Minot from a community event in another jurisdiction. He did not need direction. He just jumped in and applied his knowledge of basic medical aid to the patient. Pat did not look for any recognition or special attention. As a matter of fact, I didn't know until days after his death that he was involved in providing this level of care in this incident. Officer Blanchard had just been chosen for reassignment to the Ward County Narcotics Task Force, and it was about 3 weeks away from being reassigned to a position he had sought for the past few years. We had multiple people in the community who struggle with addiction who pointed out that Officer Blanchard always treated them with respect and seemed to truly care about them as a person. Humble. Officer Blanchard was not perfect. He made mistakes. He had been in my office for more than a friendly visit, but he always owned his mistakes. I did not bring this up to bring Pat down, rather to display that despite those mistakes, he recovered and was loved by his PD family and community, as you can see here today. That is the greatness of humility. Humility brings acceptance, trust, ownership, and understanding. Officer Blanchard and I exchanged conversation with each other on many occasions. Like Pat, I was also in the Army. He was infantry, which takes a special kind of person. I used to joke with Pat that I had been military police, MP, multi-purpose. I talked to him about how he considered being an MP as a glorified infantry. That always brought at least a smile to his face, but usually a little laughter as well. On Tuesday, December 27th, while we were in the shift supervisor office, he asked how my Christmas was. I told him and asked the same question back. A normal conversation for Pat and I, short, sweet, to the point, with some smiles and laughter, both saying we enjoyed our simple and our low-key Christmas. Little did I know that was going to be my last conversation before I got the call that brought us all here today. I am overwhelmed with today's attendance. I am grateful that this many people have showed up today to celebrate the life of Pat Blanchard under the circumstances of his death. Not that long ago, many people would not have been here to pay their respect, but today, we understand. Officer Blanchard is at peace, and today we remember. We remember a soldier, an officer, a brother, a father, and a friend. To Zoe and Seth, the memory of your father, Master Officer Patrick Blanchard, will remain forever in our hearts. Rest in peace, Master Officer Patrick Blanchard, and thank you for your service to our country and to the Minot community. Peace be with you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the honors portion of today's service.
Rifle team, fire the 3 volleys.
438 headquarters, status check.
Headquarters 438, I'm 10-4.
444 headquarters, status check. Headquarters 444, I'm 10-4. 451 headquarters, status check.
Headquarters 451, I'm 10-4.
301 headquarters, status check.
Headquarters 301, I'm 10-4.
458 headquarters, status check.
Headquarters 458, I'm 10-4.
201 headquarters, status check.
Headquarters 201, 10-4.
427 headquarters, status check. 427 headquarters, status check. 427 headquarters, status check.
Headquarters 10. 427, 1042.
10-4. Master Officer Blanchard, you have completed your mission. You have been a good friend to all that have met you. During our time we were allowed with you, we saw your passion for community service. Your love and dedication to our country, the Minot community, your brother and sisters in law enforcement was unmistakable. Today and every day we thank you and love you. God bless and rest in peace. Dispatch copies, 427 is 10-7, 1042, December 29th, 2022. We have it from here.
Lord God, unfailing love, to those friends and family members who are suffering in the wake of a loss of a police officer family member, help us to provide support. Allow us to be their rock and fortress in a time of immense pain and uncertainty. Help us to keep them safe and nourished in their time of grief, suffering beside them as we move toward healing and reconciliation. Lord, in your mercy, hear my prayers. Amen. gentlemen, the Minot Police Department family wishes to thank you for attending today. An emergency service processional will now take Pat back to Thompson Larson Funeral Home. We ask you to remain where you're at until an escort assists you in leaving. Following the processional, there will be a private meal and gathering for Minot police officers and the family. Thank you all for coming today.